buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
So, what are you drinking?
Tonight, I am drinking the most richly flavored of all single malt scotches, Lafroig 10-year. And a lot of people don't like it because it's too smoky and too peaty. But in my world, there's no such thing.
Right.
So a lot of people say, oh, I love scotch. And then I hand them one of these and they're like, what is that?
And you're all, it's scotch, motherfucker.
It's real scotch. What have you been drinking?
Some watered down St. Louis shit.
This scotch comes from New York City.
New York City!
Get a rope.
So are you comfortable there? I feel like you're like leaning into it. I removed the crossbar so you could actually stretch your legs out.
Oh, look at all this.
Yeah. I did some modifications. Because I was like, if you guys are going to roll up to it, you want to roll up and be comfortable.
Yeah. No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay, great. Yeah. I am not drinking aviation today.
What has happened to the world? Did Ryan do something to upset you?
Did what? No, not yet. Not yet. Soon, I'm sure. It's only a matter of time before that frostback son of a bitch. No, actually, I had a little bit of aviation left, and I was like, well, I'm going to save that for, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I have to drink something, and there was like Tito's vodka, which is really good vodka.
Right.
And I was like, I don't feel like drinking vodka tonight. I really do like drinking my gin.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran out, and there's a liquor store down the street, and they never have aviation.
Right.
And I know they don't have aviation. So I went looking. I was like, well, maybe they'll have some else. They had Hendrix. I'm not a big fan of Hendrix, but they did. I'm drinking tonight. I'm drinking Seagram's dry gin.
You can tell it's quality because it has a carrying handle.
It does. It does have carrying. Well, so what's interesting is that's actually not my go-to second. My go-to second is New Amsterdam.
Oh, okay.
They make a really, really good gin.
Yeah, I know some gins, they get like super floral, and then the taste profile like kind of goes into this other category.
Right.
So
right.
that, and you don't go for that kind.
No, I don't like going for that, with the exception of New Ammy.
Mm-hmm.
So New Amsterdam has a very Fruit Loops. It's very fruity.
Uh-huh.
Whereas Hendrix is more cucumber, and most gins they lean towards juniper, and really that kind of like spicy. And I don't particularly like that.
I might like the fruity one,
but New Ammy is fruity. So it's not like aviation or like Bombay Sapphire. Bombay Sapphire is just really good too.
I like I like those really floral gins, but like to have half a shot, to have a sip, not to use for a whole drink or for an evening or something like that.
Right. Well, Mary likes gin too, but her body doesn't like processing gin. Her worst hangovers are with gin.
Really?
She can knock scotch out of the fucking park.
Right.
Like it's nobody's business. I've seen her polish a bottle of beer. Like just let's go, boys. Boom. And like still like maintain. We'd stay up all night. I'd be drinking gin. She'd be drinking scotch, and we're playing Magic and still maintaining her Magic game like hard. Yeah. Knocking bottles down like you ain't got nothing on me. And then the next day, we're like, "Oh yeah, we're fine. We feel great." And I don't know. It's like the weird thing, like what people like drink. I think everyone digests or processes the booze differently. Like
I think so too, and I think they affect different people different. You think, well, it's this, whatever the scientific term for the kind of alcohol you can drink is,
right? And
you think, well, it's all the same, but tequila and scotch and vodka and gin are not the same thing.
Oh, they all hit differently.
Right.
I know people who legit. So, okay, first off, every Latino I know who is from Mexican descent believes they can drink tequila. This is wrong. I would say solidly only 20% can handle their tequila.
Well, I would say that's probably true across humanity. People that think they can drink tequila really need to be more reflective.
First off, if you're at a bar and anyone's like, "Oh, I can handle my tequila," run. Because true tequila drinkers don't talk shit like that.
Right.
They're like, "Oh, yes, I enjoy tequila very much." And then they'll break down what they like about it. But if someone walks up like, "I can handle my shots," run. Turn around and run as fast as fucking possible.
I had a phase where I was hanging out in Oakland a lot, and we would go through a bottle of tequila a night. But it was Cazadores, so it's like pretty middling tequila.
Right.
And it was shared between, I don't know, at least 4 people usually. So it wasn't too crazy.
I've done Patron Every once in a while, someone will bust out, "Hey, we're doing shots of Patron." I'll do, but I'll sip it. Which I guess like tequila is in the category of you're supposed to sip it.
Yeah,
it's
right?
supposed to be a sipping drink that you enjoy, like the bouquet and everything like that. My introduction to tequila was we're lining up shots and you have to keep knocking them back, and it's like, no, this doesn't sound like a fun game.
Yeah, no. Mary got Heather. Heather thinks that she likes tequila. I don't know if she really does. She doesn't listen to this podcast, so I can say that.
Well, I keep buying Heather tequila.
Right, and we drink it together, but she makes the face. She makes the face. So she likes being a tequila drinker without actually drinking the tequila. But Mary got her that bottle of Grand Orandane, and I think that lasted 2 years.
Really?
Right. Like, we polished it off right before this Christmas, and that was a Christmas present from 2 years ago.
Well, that's good. That's good, because it wasn't the incredibly expensive bottle of tequila, but it was a really good bottle of tequila.
Yeah.
And so that was a tequila you're supposed to enjoy.
Right. And that's how we did it. Yeah. She doesn't, like, we don't have a bottle of Cuervo that she'll take a pull off of. Although sometimes that could be cool. That could be.
So yeah, no, I feel like different people digest things differently.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I'm Scotch, Irish, Euro, mutt mixed bag, but gin just does it for me. Yeah. I can drink Scotch and bourbons and shit like that, but I don't like the way they make me feel the next day.
Right. And I'm the opposite. Like, I love a 3 Scotch buzz.
Nice.
Fantastic. It's the way.
All right, so today on the podcast, we are talking about Shiesty and the Velisha.
Yeah.
And I'm really stoked to talk about the both of these guys are local.
Mm-hmm.
The Velisha, the lead singer, I believe his name is Franco. He's a friend of a friend's, and I talked to that friend about it. And he's been playing. Been his band since 2001.
Okay, so.
And I'm assuming the way that was phrased that some people were in and out. The album that Eula and I listened to was from 2003.
Okay.
And it was their release album. Right. My experience recently of seeing them was at the concert where Urethane played. And I feel like the Velisha was the best performance of the night. They were awesome. So you walk through the door and I got some positive vibes off you.
Yeah.
Do you dug them?
So I am not a punk guy.
No, you're not.
And my daughter admonished me for not being a punk guy. She's like, so many other great qualities, and then there's that. But I've been exposed to punk over the years by all my friends. So when I met you a couple years ago and you're like, oh yeah, I listen to punk. I'm like, yeah, of course you do. Because we're friends. But the initial vibe that I got off of the band was actually pretty cool. Like, it's hardcore, and I appreciate a strong aesthetic. Like, if you're doing everything all the way,
right,
then I can appreciate what you're doing. That's one of the problems I have with Green Day, is that it's kind of watered down, and it's not hard, and it's not dirty, and it's just kind of clean punk, and I don't like it. So she's not gonna like that reference either.
Who is she?
Noel.
Oh, your daughter.
Yeah.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say as he's saying this, he is wearing Slayer Vans.
Yes.
In a Slayer t-shirt.
Yes.
In an Oakland Athletics baseball cap.
Right.
Okay.
I got this Slayer shirt from, I think I ordered it from Indonesia. It had some really weird writing on it, and was mailed airmail, and I was like, oh, I guess I clicked on that. Yeah, so I'm almost 50, and I decided that I'm just gonna lean right into that metalhead aesthetic.
Why not?
Productivity.
Can't take it with you, buddy.
That's right. And who am I trying to impress? I'm just here to have fun. I'm trying to pull up my Velisha notes right now.
Your Velisha notes? You should send them to me ahead of time, and I'll print them out for you.
I should do that.
So, I mean, like, one of the things about the Velisha that I was interesting for me was I thought they announced on Instagram that they released a new album. I Googled it, couldn't find it. So I went to Amazon, bought everything I could find, which ended up only being 5 songs and 2 of them repeated. Listened to that on loop, just loving it. And then eventually finding a YouTube video where a fan had uploaded the music in its entirety.
Right, and that's the thing that I stumbled upon. So let's see. I checked out their Facebook page. Holy shit. They got a black guy.
Yeah, actually, I believe he's the drummer.
So if you're not from Fresno and you don't know about Fresno, that's actually more rare than it should be, because the town has a history of black people living on the west side and everybody else kind of living not on the west side. So even if you were progressive and wanted to make friends, there's not a lot of crossover between the cultures in Fresno. So I just thought it was really cool that, they have this sort of rainbow coalition of rockers. They have they have a suicidal tendencies guy, a living color guy, a Trulio Disgracious guy, and a guy who looks like he could be the drum tech for Megadeth. Right? So the lead guy, he has this giant red mohawk, and he's so Fresno. So on the Facebook, I scrolled down, and he was doing a promo for one of the shows that they were doing. Yeah. And he's barbecuing in his backyard with his shirt off, and he's like, "Welcome to Rancho Fresno." And I'm like, "Yep, that guy is Fresno."
That guy is Fresno.
And so it's just a really authentic, like, guys that love the music, and they're playing it, and they've been playing it for now, I know, 22 years,
20
right?
years, yeah.
So 2 guitar players, and they both do vocals, and they trade off back and forth. And I bet that looks awesome when you see them live.
I can tell you, I could totally tell you, as of someone who has seen them live, it is an experience. It's awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The pit's going, they're rocking, dude. It is so awesome.
I saw one of their shows, and it was like probably early, and they hadn't advertised it. And there was 5 guys that were moshing.
Yeah.
and they were like fully going, right? It was this Visalia thing. So it was great to see that even if you only have 5 people, they're all in the pit.
Right.
Right. So they're doing a pretty authentic punk experience. They have the look, they have the sound, they have the art all over their Facebook. It's like the punk art from the 80s that you remember from all the posters that were taped to light poles all over town. And
yeah, and that was kind of like my experience the night that I saw them. The other bands that were playing were more hardcore, in my opinion.
More hardcore than this?
Metal hardcore, not less punk, more hardcore metal, right?
Because hardcore punk is its own genre.
Genre, right?
This is it.
And as the night was going on, and they were great bands. They were great bands. Mm-hmm. Really, it was just fun was had by all. Slowly but surely, more and more people were arriving for Urethane to watch see Caballero and that band. And it's slowly but surely packed. And I'm walking around, having some drinks and everything and having a good time. And I was enjoying the music. And then the Velisha start playing. It was just like, oh, what's this? Mm-hmm. And it was so old school in its vibe and the sound. And I'm like, dude, I thought I was 20 again. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I got into the pit.
Hell yeah.
My old ass, it just drew me in like a fucking siren's call, man. It was so good and pure. And I looked up and just all these heads moshing.
Yeah.
And steam was filling in the room and everyone was having a good time. And it was like, this generation's going to do all right.
I love it. I went and took my daughter Noelle to see Faith No More when they released their last album. I guess it was 4 or 5 years ago now, at the Warfield in San Francisco. And the last time I had seen Faith No More at the Warfield in San Francisco, the pit was massive. Yeah. Like, it was hundreds of people. And so we go there, and it's only 4 or 5 years ago. It was filled with all these tech people that didn't know what they were supposed to do. They just stood there. What? And Faith No More plays Caffeine, which is off their second album, Angel Dust, which is probably the greatest hard rock album of all time. And everyone's just standing there, and I'm jumping up and down, like busting out of my skin, like, what are you doing? It's time to go! So, yeah, it totally transported me. So I know exactly what you mean. Like, just getting transported back there.
Right.
And, like, if anyone had even hinted that they wanted to pit, I would have been pitting with them, with my old ass, too. So, yeah. So, yeah, they have the look, they have the sound, they have the art.
Okay.
They play live around town all the time. They play parking lots and dives downtown. Like in Fresno, if you're on M Street, you're downtown.
You're downtown. if the street's a letter.
Watch your back, you better. Right. So, I think they're pretty cool. The
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it first here. I have found a punk band that Kyle actually likes.
I do like them. Would I listen to their music on a Sunday afternoon in order to relax? Absolutely not. It's reprehensible. But their first tune, I got all of these like jazz whiffs off, and I'll
Really?
list them down. Yeah. So the lead singer kind of sings with that British hardcore affectation, and that is playing your music like the influences that shaped your songwriting.
Okay, yeah.
Well, that's what I do in jazz. I listen to Miles Davis and I listen to Lee Morgan and I try to sound like them. So,
Okay.
So jazz, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So they're doing this musical tradition that has been around for 100 years, and also the song 1 2 3 4. They say the words 1 2 3 4 in a bar that has 5 beats.
Yeah.
Right? So it's 1 2 3 4 go. So they say 1 2 3 4 in the time that it takes you to count 1 2 3 4 5.
Yeah.
And that's just that's golden to me because it's like a musical pun or a joke or
Right.
and it's just them being natural and loving what they're doing, but 1 2 3 4 takes 5 beats. That's fucking awesome. Okay, so the second song from this link is 7785, and I'm listening to it. So I have a pretty good audio setup at home that I listen to this stuff on. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, the guitar tone's a little muted, like the highs are rolled off, but it's mixed really well. You can really hear the separation, especially from a YouTube video that's been compressed.
Right.
And I'm thinking, the bass and the guitars are very distinct and separate. I think they spent real money on this recording.
Really?
Like, I don't think they got Billy's laptop and set up a couple microphones. I think they went into the studio and made this record. Now, it'd be cool to follow up and like message them on Facebook and ask them about that record and see.
Well, so that's what's kind of cool. I talked to my buddy Rodney Rodriguez the other day, who's the guy who started the Fresno Skateboard Salvage.
Right, which is a great organization that we need to talk more about someday.
And Franco volunteers with the same organization, and Rodney says Franco's just like all in, super nice, like one of the nicest guys ever. Whenever Rodney needs an extra pair of hands, Franco's one of these guys who is always like, "What time? Where? I'm ready to go."
Right.
And he says Franco's just totally awesome. So we actually might have an opportunity to Rodney says, just text him.
Right.
Because I was like, I want to buy more of his album.
Right.
Like I'm really digging the vibe, digging the music. Everything sounds awesome. I want to buy more.
Yeah.
I want to buy more, and I want to to share it with more people. And Rodney's like, just text him. He's super easygoing. So we might be able to set it up where him and the guys come down, hang out. We'll have some drinks and talk a little bit more about the band, which I'd love to do with I'd love to do with everyone that we listen to. It would be kind of cool. I mean, I don't think we're getting Reverend Horton Heat in here.
If Meshuggah wants to contact us, please do so.
Yeah, if anyone listening knows Meshuggah.
You can do sleeping bags on my garage floor. I know that's how you guys like to do stuff, so.
Let's take a quick break here while I freshen up my cocktail.
Yeah.
All right. So what was your next note?
My next note, from the song Astro Zombies.
Which, I love that title.
It fucking sucks. I hate it. I wish it was dead. Nothing about outer space or zombies. Die in a fire. I fucked your mom. Fuck you.
Are those the lyrics?
No.
Or is that your opinion?
That's my opinion of the song.
Okay.
That song sucks. Those would be good punk rock lyrics, though. Critic Schemes. It's just a dirty punk record. It's kind of, I'd say it's like a boilerplate. Like, if you had beef stew, you'd want a dinner roll. It's just kind of beef stew and a dinner roll. It's like just what punk, hardcore punk is. Diseased Conformity. This is one where the two vocalists are trading back and forth a lot, and I really liked it. And this is the one that made me make the note. I bet it looks cool when they trade back and forth when they're playing live.
Right, right.
It's like when Mr. Bungle is playing Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny, and Mike Patton is up there and he's doing vocals, and then all of a sudden the chorus comes back, and both guitar players come on both sides, and they're all three screaming the same thing. And it's like, that's just good theater. It's rad when they do that. So
okay.
The next song is F-U-C-K.
Okay.
If you're a punk band and you don't have a song called fuck you. Because they do. I think
it was Guttermouth had a song, I'm a Motherfucker. And that was the song that got Guttermouth pulled from my CD collection as a high schooler.
Oh, right. They wanted to exercise some control over the playlist in the Cochran household.
Well, being raised Mormon, there was a lot of what is this? I remember had a birthday party, and I was like, for the first high school birthday party, invited a bunch of high school friends, right?
Sure.
All of a sudden, a group of people showed up with a car, and I'm like a freshman in high school. None of my friends had cars. Like, everyone was dropped off by their parents, but a couple of them came over in a car. And they put on I think Sonic Youth. And the lyric, fly back to Los Angeles to kill my asshole brother. And this song's played on the radio. I heard it on the radio. I was like, yeah, Sonic Youth. This is good and, grunge or whatever. My dad comes in, what is this girl? Oh. Half the party just got up and walked out.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm so appalled. Oh, I'm horrified.
Our friend Bill would always play Sonic Youth for me when we were fresh out of high school. We were roommates. And most of the music I know because he played it all the time. But my favorite song is a song called Providence.
Yeah.
Providence by Sonic Youth is a recording of the band vamping over a message that somebody left on an answering machine. And it's like, Thurston, it's Warren. Hey, man, did you find your shit? I think it was in your hand when you threw that trash away. Go check in the trash. Call me back. I was like, I've had that moment so many times, and every time I'm like, this is what they were writing about. I wish I could find my shit. So, yeah, Providence by Sonic Youth. Check it out. It's amazing. It feels like it's from another dimension.
By the way, did you catch the name on this album? It's just the Velisha, right? I don't think I caught a name.
Yeah, I don't think I wrote down the name, and I think I would have. It's because it's some other guy, a fan, that uploaded the album.
I have it. Yes. I believe. Okay, so the album was 2003, and I believe it's called Last Soldier.
Oh, okay.
Now, is there anything from this playlist that you wish to play for a soundbite that you felt like is like, oh, we should listen to a little clip?
Oh,
of
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can't bring up 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 second. All right, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4 by the Velisha on The Last Soldier, or just Last Soldier, 2003.
Yeah. It takes 5 beats to say 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome.
1, 2, 3, 4. So good.
All right, that was great.
Yeah. The Velisha. Fantastic.
Any other notes for the album?
No, I didn't get much farther from that. Recommend to check out their Facebook page and scroll through some of the live performances that they have on there.
Right. Okay.
They're great.
It is my understanding, I could be wrong, that Franco has a warehouse space where they play a lot of their shows. I think it's called Destruction Production. I don't know like what the deal is. That's the location where I saw them at. Okay. But I believe they play a lot of shows there all the time.
Yeah, I saw one in a tent in a backyard. I saw one in a parking lot. I was like, yeah, these guys come to play.
Yeah. So, you know what we'll do? We'll put the Facebook link in the doobly-doo on the information page.
Yeah.
And see when the next time they're going to be doing a show, because not only are they great, but also like they're bringing music to Fresno. Like they're bringing entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, if there's like a weekend or a night where you're like, you have nothing to do, checking out what's going on in their Facebook page is probably a good idea to see what kind of live shows are going on around town.
Totally. Yeah. It seemed like they had a series of bands that they played with often, and then a few others that would kind of rotate their crew. And yeah, the drummer goes nuts. The bass player's tight. The guitar players are going for it, and the vocals are super hardcore punk.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I have Shiesty.
Right. So Shiesty I met here in Fresno. He was going to school for video production.
Right.
As was I at the time. And we were both kind of the guys that knew how to run audio in the video production studio. So we started talking about audio and stuff, and then I heard some of his music. I was like, dude, this is really good.
Yeah.
You know? And so after college, he moved to San Mateo, and he got this spot that was in downtown San Mateo. And I moved up to San Francisco, so whenever I was going up and down the peninsula, I'd call him and be like, hey, what are you working on? Let me hear some tracks. And so we kind of stayed in touch a little bit, and he's been working on new stuff. So I check out his work, and it's tight.
So my biggest problem with Shiesty,
yeah,
is he's not actually local. He went to school here,
right? He lived here
for like what, 4 years,
at least.
That makes him a local. That makes him a fucking tourist.
Well, I was talking about it, and my experience with him was local, so that's how he got picked. I didn't know you're so picky.
Oh yeah, no. I think next week we'll cover what's the guy your friend Carlos.
Oh, Carlos Montano,
because he is local.
He's definitely local,
and I'd like to spotlight a local guy.
Okay, yeah, he opens up for George Lopez when George Lopez is anywhere in the valley.
That's what you were saying.
Right.
That's what you're saying. So I'd like to promote this look, because now with that said, Shiesty was awesome as fuck. But there is something really, really funny. So I Googled Shiesty. And I guess currently there's a young mumble rapper named Pooh Shiesty.
Oh yeah, I saw that in the search results.
And he sounds like this. And Shiesty,
no, that ain't it.
sounds like this.
Right.
What's going down? What's the deal? This is how we chill. This is how we chill. Smoke weed, pop bottles, pop.
And as you can tell, the second one was way better.
Yeah, right?
Than this mumble rap.
Yeah, he's got his own style, and it comes from the hip hop that we grew up with. You know, it's not It's not triplets, it's not trap style. It's not mumble rap like is popular now. It's all the influences that I would say are my influences, like all the death row stuff.
I literally wrote like I wouldn't say death row. I wouldn't say, I don't know.
That's what my influence is. I don't know exactly what his
but I
are.
did write, like, it feels like, and I didn't go down song by song.
Okay.
The album I looked at was Shiesty, the President of the United States of Hallucinations and Alcoholic Wolves or something. It had a very,
that's the newest one, I think.
It came out 4 years ago, and it's got this long-ass title.
Uh-huh.
And it's got, like, 40 songs on it.
Right.
And they're not, like, little, like, 30-second sound bites either.
No, they're full songs.
Each song is a legit, full audio experience of talent. But I was like, it feels like the 90s for sure. It has, like... And this influence would change depending on if he had anyone rapping with him.
Yeah, he has a whole crew. He has a whole crew of guys that rotate. He'll guest on their albums. He'll shoot their videos. Okay. He has his own mastering business where he'll finalize the levels on your album before you make it.
Style wise, it was fucking Bone Thugs to Eminem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, like where Bone Thugs would sit there and they'd be Bone Thugs and Harmony would be harmonic in certain verses. Da 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 da. It's the first of the month, right? They're actually singing along,
right,
as they're rapping. And then like it shift gears with the guy. It was like, oh shit, and really smooth stuff. But I didn't find. Even though I was having this overwhelming nostalgic experience, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, I listened to this probably more than the Velisha this last week. I listened to it over and over and over in a loop because it's easy on the ears. It's you don't have to be in a certain mood to it. It can play in the background.
Yeah, it's good beats.
And that was my number one issue with it. You can just play it in the background. It doesn't make a difference because there's no heart.
Oh.
I felt incredibly talented lyrically. He's poetic and he was making these poetic jumps and leaps that I thought were fun, and the storytelling was there and everything.
Yeah.
But this is where the nostalgia for it like kicked in.
Yeah. Was
he sounds like me and my friends in our 20s smoking dope in Big Bird's bedroom, mixing DJ Shadow, Permanent Midnight, and freestyling over it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like it hits hard and this very hard nostalgic feel and everything, but there's nothing special about it.
Oh, okay.
And as fun as it was, and it's fun. It is a fun fucking album, and he's now on my permanent playlist.
Okay.
He has a good time,
right?
But I can see why he never got any farther because there's nothing that distinguishes him from everybody else at that time.
Well, he definitely raps better than me.
Definitely.
And one of the things that impresses me about him so much is that he produces all of his beats. Like on my Space Jazz album, most of my beats I bought.
Really?
From like a beat service. And he actually has his own beat service. I forget what it's called. Sorry, Bryce, I can't remember what your beat thing's called. But he has something where he just has a library of beats that you can buy for your own tracks. And so
maybe that's the thing. Maybe he's like the better producer.
Might be, yeah.
Than lyricist, because I thought his lyrics, although fun, were pretty simplistic.
Okay,
they weren't very complex. That's kind of like the thing with hip hop too. Like hip hop is poetry, and the delivery has to have hooks and jumps, and so like wordplay and vocabulary is a big one, and I thought that the vocabulary was very simplistic.
All right, so
there weren't a lot of leaps or surprises with the words that were coming out. It was just like, oh, this is the natural rhyme that should come after this.
Yeah.
But also because the album was so long, this could be just because of the songs I selected.
It could be, yeah.
Because I did pick this, and I did pick, I think it was like 5 or 6 songs. I sent you a list of what I picked.
Yeah.
So like 3 off the top was like, This Is How We Chill, High Altitude, Puff Puff Give. If these songs aren't about pot, my name's not Steve.
Well, all the songs are about pot.
Right.
He did one of the most heroic dabs I've ever seen in my life and just walked out like that. Oh, I needed a sip of water before I left.
Right.
And fucking first time I ever saw shatter or wax or whatever you want to call it. And it was just like, boom. And I was like, oh, I would be dead if I tried to do that. And you're just like, hey, man, I'm going to walk out of here now. Wow. So, yeah, all the songs are about weed. That's for sure.
All of them about potting, all of them about weed. Everyone's a stoner in it. But what I picked was, so those are the first 3 on the album.
Uh-huh.
Those are the first 3 songs on the album.
Right.
Okay. The next song I picked was Patrick Swayze because I still miss Patrick Swayze.
Everyone misses Patrick Swayze.
He's a great American actor. He's a hero to some.
Roadhouse.
I mean, like ripping people's throats out.
Right.
Fucking, what was it? The Outsiders.
Oh, yeah.
Dirty Dancing. Like, I mean, the guy's a legend. Guy was a legend. Lost him way too young to cancer. So Patrick Swayze, of course, I jumped on it. The song is not about Patrick Swayze. There's only one line in the entire thing that references Patrick Swayze, and it might be in the chorus, and it is, I will ghost you like Patrick Swayze.
Hell yeah. Well, there's your poetry right there.
And there is your poetry right there. So, obviously, the next one was C-3PO, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
Right.
Again, only a vague reference to C-3PO, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then the one after that was 40 Ounce Music, and literally this song is 40 Ounce Music. Like, it was like, I lived the night that he's describing in 40 Ounce Music.
Yeah.
That was something that I fucking did.
Right. So when I was bringing up Bryce or Shiesty, I was thinking about the track, sitting around the house doing nothing. Did I send you that video?
Yes, but I didn't listen to it.
Oh, okay. It's just this funny thing. So he wakes up, he writes the tune, he writes the beat, he records the whole song, he calls up his buddy, a guy that he raps with a lot.
Yeah.
They go over to his backyard, they shoot the whole video, and by nighttime that night, he's written, recorded, produced, shot the video, and uploaded the video, and he was like, I did all of this in like 12 hours.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll tag the video in the comments as well, so people can click
it's just a fun stoner song.
So
like,
let me
sitting around the house doing nothing. I was going to do something, but it ended up nothing. Like,
well, okay, let me bring it up real fast. Let's just take a look at it real quick.
Okay.
I'm sitting in the backyard doing nothing. I'm sitting in the house doing nothing. I'm back in the yard doing nothing.
Not bad for quick and dirty.
That's pretty good for a 12-hour session, man.
I just think his overall vibe is relatable, and
It is, and I don't want to come off like
so
he's not. But okay, look, I don't want to like he's shit because he's not. He's incredibly fun.
Right.
He's got it all put together and everything. I just don't think I was like, oh, like the thing with hip hop is it's so fucking competitive.
Yeah, for sure.
It's seriously high octane combat, like it's fucking MMA, and I think where that's led us is mumble rap and trap and all that other shit. It's like literal garbage, but it's so competitive. His shit's chill as fuck,
right?
But like Cypress Hill's chill as fuck. Cypress Hill has the same themes, but Cypress Hill's still fucking competitive.
Right, well, Cypress Hill is at the top of the hill.
Yeah, right. I just don't think he's got a cutting edge, like
okay,
like an aggression to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, you know what it is? Know what it is? I know exactly what it is. This motherfucker is the Grateful Dead of rap.
You know, I wish someone would call me the Grateful Dead of anything.
Of fucking anything.
Of fucking anything.
This motherfucker is the Grateful Dead. You just drop, go to the show, have a hell of a good time.
Yep.
Some girls with their fucking tops off are twirling next to him while he's spinning and spitting. Fucking, yeah, no. So who else plays around town? Because I don't know a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, going to that show was the first show I went to in like fucking 12 years.
Yeah.
I think the last time I went to a show was like Reverend Horton Heat.
Well, like I would put Brian Kenny Fresno on the list of like local phenomenons. Like when national acts would come through Fresno,
Right.
he would go play on the street in the Tower District, and then the national acts would like be like, "This guy's hilarious. Come in and hang out with us backstage before the show."
Right.
So, and then that led him to, I think he was banned in Fresno for a while.
What?
Yeah, like, and I don't know this whole story. Sorry, Brian. I don't know the whole story, but he was banned from playing in Fresno for a while. I think he accosted a city councilman, not like attacked, but like verbally assaulted a city councilman, and they were just like
accosted. I feel like it means he put hands on somebody.
Yeah,
and when I see the Facebook post, I don't think Brian Kenny's
no, he's not that kind of guy. But
confrontation kind of guy.
I think he like verbally got out of hand with this guy because he was the city councilman was a piece of shit. He's a city councilman in Fresno. They're all pieces of shit. Well, show me one that's not.
No, what I'm saying is, well, we're kind of small potatoes. We don't need that kind of Fresno heat. Okay, look, Kyle. Let me break it down for you. We do not have what the French call "fuck you" money.
We
are hundredaires,
right? If you have a hit squad in Fresno, you move up to Stockton. That's what you do.
Actually, I'm pretty sure you become mayor.
Right. So, So the city councilmen are not coming after me, but they did come after Brian Kenny Fresno. So he was banned here for a while. So he would go and play in Berkeley and San Francisco all the time.
Okay.
And I don't know when the ban was lifted, but the way I was introduced to Brian Kenny Fresno is I was living in San Francisco in this like artist loft warehouse kind of situation.
Right.
And the guy that ran the place was like, "Get in my van, loser. We're going to go see Brian Kenny Fresno. You're from Fresno. Let's go." And I was like, okay, I've never heard of this guy. He did the coolest thing, okay? So he would set up a TV and a VCR on a cart like you would have in class, like if you were going to watch a movie in class that day.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a VCR and the thing. So he puts in the VCR tape, and then that starts, and then he's there live, and he says, "Oh, live via satellite is my brother, Ryan Kenny Poughkeepsie." And it's Brian Kenny Fresno in a wig, and he's like playing air drums, but they sync up to his drum track.
Okay.
Right? So he's playing air drums along with the drum track on the TV on a fucking videotape that, you know, you can't pause and rewind and get it perfect. Like, you have to play the whole show perfectly with this videotape.
Right.
And then he's playing this, I can't remember if it's the Chapman Zipper or war guitar. I think it's a war guitar, which is a guitar that's a bass and a guitar on the same neck. So it's super thick, and you tap the bass and you tap the chords. It's this crazy contraption, right? So he's playing this guitar that has like 15 strings on it.
I feel like we need to like just do a Brian Kenny Fresno episode.
Well, it's better live. All the recordings on YouTube are not that great. And when you see him in person, he's like wearing overalls, and he has a work boot and a sneaker, and he has like a tablecloth cape.
Yes, I've seen the pictures.
And parts of the show, like he has this button on the floor, and then the fan turns on and like blows his cape in the wind. He's like playing a solo like Yngwie. And it's just like, it's so epic. But also, every time he says the word Fresno in a song, which is every song.
Yes.
You're supposed to yell back, "Fresno!" And then you're supposed to eat raisins that he passes out before he starts playing. And the lyrics... the lyrics get projected onto a screen behind him, but via the overhead projectors that we had in the 80s, where you would write with this crazy pen on a transparency, and then you'd put it on there. And there's a member of the audience that's in charge of changing the lyrics for every song. And they thought, "Oh, I'm just sitting in the front row." It's like, no, motherfucker, you're going to work.
You got to work.
You got to put the lyrics up.
Job now.
Right. And if he catches you slipping, everyone will be like, "Boo!" on the lyrics guy.
So this is an experience.
Oh, it's so great.
like Rocky Horror Picture Show, or
Right, like one of his new songs is they're building a corpse trench behind Eyeglass World. And if you're from here and you know where Eyeglass World is, you're like, are they building a corpse trench back there? Why is there a tractor there when I drove by today? And you're like, what is that for? Does he know something I don't know?
Well, isn't that the market?
No, it's like on the other side of the market, right?
So that's Sean Blackstone.
Right.
Okay, and then right behind it is the farmer's market.
Right.
And
But behind
that
Eyeglass
is my
World,
favorite restaurant.
there's a trench.
There's a trench?
You're right. And the song is they're building a corpse trench behind Eyeglass World. And you're like, maybe he knows something we don't.
Actually, that song is obfuscation because everyone knows the corpse trench is behind Staten Optical off of Blackstone and Herndon.
Blackstone and Herndon, right.
right next to the homeless encampment.
It's the bait and switch to where it's actually behind Stanton Optical, not behind Eyeglass World.
Look at Eyeglass World. God, that's
He lives in a fantasy world. Give him some slack, okay? Yeah.
Stanton Optical always cracks me because they got this giant modern white glass orange. We sell glasses from the future.
The future.
And it has no parking. It's right there on Blackstone and Herndon.
Which is like the busiest intersection in town.
Right off the freeway. So like no legitimate like business other than fast food belongs in that fucking corner.
Right.
The sign in front is an advertisement because we have space available. Let us sell property.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been on fire. Like someone lit it on fire. and here's what's funny. It was lit on fire 20 years ago and they left it
and
there.
It's still just burnt.
It's just burnt. And it's like, oh, originally I thought, oh, was this like one of those like the picture was sun scorched? Like it got so hot in Fresno? No, because it's facing east. And it only happens to things that are facing west. Right. So that was actually lit on fire 20 years ago. And the land developer, the realtor, never pulled it down. So here's this modern thing with and homeless people live in the front entrance.
I think that scenario is the perfect way to welcome someone to our wonderful town.
Honestly,
it should be on the billboard that says "Welcome to Fresno," and then like Stanton Optical with just half a burned building and a trench behind it. It's perfect,
dude. And here's the funny thing: I know, like, oh, the homeless crisis is getting out of hand. There were homeless people living in the entrance of Stanton Optical 10 years ago.
So they are providing a service.
Totally
fantastic.
It's housing for a community of heroin addicts, and
there you go.
Okay, we're going to take a break here because I hear the dogs barking, which means shots. No. Shots. Do you know what's going on with D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, right now?
I heard that they're making a big push to monetize more of it.
So D&D is always big push for monetization.
Well,
and D&D 1 is basically a big money grab.
Right. So when I played,
little return. But that's not what actually happened. That's not what I'm talking about right now.
Okay, when I played in the 80s, you bought the Player's Handbook, and it was $24, which was a lot of money in the 80s. You bought the Dungeon Master's Guide, and you bought the Monster Manual. And you could play for hundreds of hours with those 3 books.
Right.
And the way it's being monetized now is way more vast and complicated.
And that's D&D 1. That's their D&D 1 push. What I'm actually referring to is their licensing agreement, which was created in 2001. And it's how we get all this new content, right? Mm-hmm. So you have, Critical Role. You have Matthew Corvell, you have Fool's Gold, Humboldt Woods. These are all third-party content that was created by other organizations under a licensing agreement with Wizards of the Coast.
Okay, so it's stuff that you can plug into your D&D experience.
To your D&D experience.
All right.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand. I can't go into the details of the legalities of it and all.
We're not here to talk business structures.
Yeah, business structures. However, one of the fallbacks of them renewing the licensing agreement is that it seems to be overly aggressive in acquiring other people's intellectual property, and it feels nefarious. So a lot of content creators are feeling attacked.
They probably are attacked.
Without picking sides, it definitely feels like they're being attacked.
Right.
Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't understand the language enough to like say who's right or who's wrong or anything like that. But a lot of content creators are feeling threatened about their business model, which was to create original content, but under a license agreement for Wizards of the Coast. And now they feel like they're not going to be able to do that and make a profit. Because these are small businesses at the end of the day.
Yeah, so people are writing modules and coming up with new ways to maybe combine the general thing, and they're trying to put it in the same places where everyone else, like a marketplace or something, and you're saying that content is getting gobbled up by the corporation.
There does seem to be a very physical acquisition of that.
Right. Well, if you've been to business school, which I have not, but I hear about business school, and the idea is I just watched this thing about the history of Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
So they start in this room that's over a pub in England, and they make Grand Theft Auto 1.
Right.
And then the game does pretty well. Then they make Grand Theft Auto 2. And the game does pretty well, and then they get acquired by this company that got acquired by this other company, and then this other company acquired both of those companies.
Right.
And then they make Grand Theft Auto 3, and then this giant company comes in and acquires all of them, and that becomes Rockstar Games.
Right.
Right.
But my point being...
business is getting acquired and content getting acquired. That's the name of the game.
No.
And it probably ruins it for all of us.
Yes and no. Yes and no. That's a oversimplification of something that happens in business, not what's happening here.
Oh yeah, what's the difference?
Well, the big difference is that these are third-party entities that, in your description of what happens was this was acquired by this was acquired. That acquisition that became eventually Rockstar Games happened between lawyers in an office.
Right.
Oh, you're going to buy our company? We expect this payment.
Right.
And that's a negotiation. What we're talking about is I created content under a licensing agreement that says that company A gives me permission to make this content. Then company A turns around and says, now we're just going to take it and you get nothing.
Oh, that's fucked.
Completely different.
Yeah, that's
fucked.
My
point is, the reason why I bring it up, because I didn't want to get into this, but the reason why I bring it up, is that there is a large amount of content creators right now who don't know what tomorrow brings.
Right.
And in May, I'm dropping Morticians on Kickstarter.
Right.
So on Monday, I'm releasing a video, kind of like a call to arms with content creators, that if they feel burned by whatever they had originally set up, I would love for them to come and play in my playground.
Right.
Invite them to come, because they create the characters, they create the world, the stories. That's the important part, is the storytelling. And all these content creators have one common factor, is that they're incredibly creative and they have a beautiful way of reevaluating what's in front of them, and they create great stuff.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, it's not entirely about the system. They can do the same thing in a different system, and I would love for them to come join me on Discord and discuss and help build the Morticians world.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I played Morticians 2 times, maybe 2.5 times.
Right.
We rolled new characters, and we went through, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes of the beginning module, and I tried as different character classes, and I balanced my character differently both times. And I thought it was really interesting. Coming from a D&D background, I also played a lot of BattleTech back in the day, where you would build your mech and you have to bubble in all the armor parts on the and trade off tons for armor and weapons and all that stuff. So Car Wars was another one that I really liked. The Steve Jackson games, original Car Wars. My cousins and I would play that forever. So I have a lot of older role-playing game experience. And one of the things I liked about Morticians is that, sure, it kind of put me in the Walking Dead, Last of Us sort of mode, but post-apocalyptic is my favorite place. Like the movies that I watch, the movies that I love, the movies that I've made, the most feature-length kind of short film thing that I've ever made was a zombie flick.
Right.
And I was the zombie. And it was great.
Well, so and that's what I find is interesting, and I hope the players and the creators and other content creators and GMs find interesting is that I am providing a system and a backdrop.
Right.
And it is solely up to the players and the GMs to create the story however they want to create it. And if they want to say there's no zombies, there's this and this, then they absolutely have the power and the authority to create.
Well, sure, you can play all different types of modules. I built a paladin, and his anti-undead shit was on point. And then we played a module that had 0 undead at all. Right. So, I mean, anything can happen in a role-playing game, and you know, some modules you don't need a thief, and there you are. You're a halfling thief, and you're getting thrown around. Right. So, but that's all part of the storytelling experience and the story that you build as you play the game.
Right.
So,
by the way, for all you players out there, if you're playing a thief and the game is heavily not thief favorable, just be an alcoholic thief. It is so much fun just to be drunk all the time in character, air quotes.
Where our other friend's playing a drunk monk, and that one's working out great too.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, a drunk monk who's sober.
Right.
I don't think he's had a drink. He started the game as a drunken master.
Right. Which is one of the greatest films of all time, by the way.
Yes. And then afterwards, like, he just stopped drinking.
Right.
It's so, like, maybe we should start throwing the DTs
I forgot to get wasted.
I don't know how to get wasted anymore. Oh, man. But, yeah, no, that's Monday, and that's what's been going on with D&D. Like, it wasn't so much like, okay, so D&D 1 is totally Wizards of the Coast, money grab. Like,
yeah, their magic sets come out too fast. Like, you don't have time to, like, build a set from buying packs anymore. You have to buy multiple boxes to just hope to get a set anymore. I used to buy packs for, 3-4 months at least.
Right.
They got a set coming out every 2 weeks.
Yeah, because they are creating it. And I just learned. So just the other day, I was doing some beta testing with my nephew, Val. Vela, V-E. I don't know. He doesn't want me to use his street name. He wants me to use his slang name, right?
Sure.
GM Vela. He's on Twitch. He's a great guy.
All right.
But we were talking and we were doing some beta testing. He goes, hey, you want to play a little Arena? I'm like, yeah, I haven't played in a couple of years. I'll hop on and start playing Arena. And I'm going through and I'm learning stuff and I'm looking stuff up. And they are creating content that's just for Arena and not for cards anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why they're dropping these blocks so fast is they're trying to maintain the digital video game competitiveness.
Yeah, and that's not what drew me to Magic at all. It was card collecting, it was card organizing, and it was card deck building.
So what I did
Arena is this completely other thing that I have no interest in at all.
So what I did the other day, because my wife doesn't want to play Magic against me anymore.
Right.
So a little backstory for the listeners. I stopped playing Magic in high school. I started talking to my wife before we get married. She's started collecting Magic in doctoral school in college.
Mm-hmm.
It was her hobby to get her through the long doctoral program, writing everything, and so she got me back into Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And she's good. She's got a lawyer's mind about rules and strategy and shit. So she's really fucking good.
Yeah, she's adjudicated a few of our matches.
Of our rulings,
Does this card do this? And she's like, yes, but not the way you're doing it.
And so yeah, there's that. And so what happened eventually was that I started playing Magic Arena, and I was getting so good at the deck building that we'd build decks, and I was undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking like undefeated for like a month. I was undefeated for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not fun for anybody, right? And so we stopped playing. And after Vel said, hey, let's play Magic, and I played a little bit, she's like, oh, I want to play Magic again. So the other day, I'm down at the local game shop, a Crazy Squirrel.
Right.
And I saw they have pre-built commander decks.
Oh, I like those. I want to try those.
On blocks that I have no knowledge of.
Right.
So
yeah.
they did the whole vampire, werewolf, human block that dropped, and I'm really into vampires and zombies and everything.
Right.
That all dropped when I wasn't playing. They had 2 commander decks that were like comparable opposites of each other. And I was like, oh. So I bought those and I brought them home. And I was like, hey, what? I showed her and she got stoked. And so last night, like, we played each other.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what's inside these cards.
Right.
And she has no idea what's in her cards.
Right.
And so we actually had a good time for the first time.
And how big is the deck? Is it 100 cards?
It's a 100 card deck.
Right. So that's a big deck. You have to play it several times before you really get what's going on.
Yeah, most decks are 60.
Right.
My ideal deck
And when we draft, it's 40.
When we draft, it's 40.
Right.
So my ideal deck is 40 and 60. It's on the lower end. So a 100 card deck. And the thing about Commander, which is really cool, is it's what's called singleton. So there's no duplicate cards. They're all original.
Oh, okay.
So what happens is I'd have to learn 99 cards and how they all like play with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
That's some next level shit.
Right. So you have several plays through the deck before you even get what's going on. So it keeps it fresh.
It does. It really does. So it was a really nice twist. It was really kind of fun. And she had a great time because it wasn't me just like tranching her out of the gate with the deck I built.
Yeah, your fuck you decks that you would make to where every card is just like, oh, fuck you. And then you play your next card and you're like, oh, fuck you. You play your next card and you're like, you know what? I don't know why we're friends.
Not when we play Magic. I legitimately, I spent $5 and then stopped myself. That's a lie. I spent $15 and stopped myself.
Mm-hmm.
The Magic addiction, like, oh, I only spent this. No, I spent $15 and stopped myself. I was going to buy a $40 deck.
Uh-huh.
And so what a $40 deck is there's this guy, Bad Boy Gaming, on YouTube, and he builds these decks and he builds these budget decks, and they're one and dones. They're decks that win in your first hand.
Oh, right.
And they're called $40 decks because it's how much
common cards.
They're common cards, but it's how much you spend on some of the more rare cards to make the mechanic works. And so I
really like that because there's an efficiency. And it's not like, well, I have 4 each of this $800 card, and I have 4 each of this $600 card, and it's like, no, this is a $40 deck, and I just fucked your mouth.
So one of the rules that always tickles me is, you can only have 4 of one card in a deck, right?
Right.
Okay. The reason why that is because of Timberwolves. Timberwolves was either a Beta or an Arabian Nights block card.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like a sewer rat, where it's +1/+1 for every wolf you played.
Right.
Okay? And so this is back in the day where like common deck size was like 40. So it was Timberwolves and mana in a red deck.
Right, and all of a sudden you just have 12/12 within like
it's
3 turns.
Whoever gets them out the fastest wins, right? And so that's when they put the speed limit. Well, you can only have 4 fucking cards.
Right. Man, it still makes me sick. Our buddy Bill had beta decks, had tons of beta cards that he'd given me, but he had a beta Black Lotus.
Right.
And he played with it, but even a well-played beta Black Lotus, probably $1,000 right now.
Right.
For one card.
They reinvented it and re-released it for Arena. Yeah, they're not that good.
They are that good. It's 0 mana for 3 mana.
Yeah.
And it's an artifact, so you can, with a black deck, you can pull your artifact back out of the graveyard, and you can do it multiple times. You can get 9 mana in 1 turn. But you have to
sacrifice it to get the 3 now.
But you didn't back then. It was 0 mana, 3 black mana. It was the most OP card, and it was one of the first ones they ever banned.
So there are several black cards that do that. There's the Black Lotus. There's a crypt one where like on turn 2 you sacrifice the turn 1 creature that you summon and you get like 5 like swamps. It's like there's a couple of swamps that did that over times.
Yeah, no, exactly. Black is a deadly color when you really get the interplay between sacrificing and graveyard and cards that take advantage of that.
Yeah.
That's when black gets cool. It's not just like, oh, I have a vampire and it's flying and it's like 4/4. It's like, who gives a shit about that? You can do that with blue. Right? Let's do necromancy, right?
that's the commander deck I got.
Nice.
It's zombies. It's a zombie deck. It's blue-black. And it's basically like, oh no, we're killing shit and we're creating corpses, and we have these +1/+1 for every zombie you get, and oh, by the way, all the zombies are flying and all that.
Right.
It's like
There you
it's
go.
just all this it's just all this crazy mechanic. And like the big mechanic is, oh, just let them die and go to the graveyard, because there's 3 mechanics. I think there was at one point last night, the mechanic was, all right, it's my end turn, so I sacrifice this one zombie, which procs these 2 cards, which makes you sacrifice 1 zombie each for the proc. So now she had to lose 2, right? And so I'm like trying to whittle down her army,
Right.
And no, by the way, when this guy's die, they come back as two blah blah blah.
Right.
You know, it was just like, oh yeah, murder, death.
Yeah.
Bring the corpses. It was so much fun.
Yeah. That's when black gets really good.
Yeah, my favorite black decks are those. I love vampire decks. They are my favorite.
I used to have the dopest, like Ice Age and before
Right.
vampire deck. So I had 3rd edition Sengir vampires, and then I had like some Arabian Nights shit in there, and I had like Oubliette, where your creature is just not, it is in this prison now. So anything that you would, and I had, 4 fucking Arabian Nights Oubliettes. I could probably put a down payment on a car with those.
No.
Because there's other cards that do it, like pacifism. It's kind of like pacifism.
Right.
But at the time, there was no other card that did that, and it was fucking awesome. I used to play with this girl, and I played Oubliette against her, and she's like, I'm not playing if you use that card. And I was like, well, why don't you just put cards that can defeat it? And she's like, if you have that card, I'm not fucking playing.
I don't have a problem with bondage cards that tie up cards, which is what the
that was the first
with
one.
Yeah, at this point, there's so many cards historic. My issue now is, played a game the other day, and it was like I got caught in a time loop. And if you don't know what a time loop is, basically at this point, if you play historic or legends or some of the older stuff where any cards is allowable, by now there's 4 or 5 cards that allow the player who plays them to get the next turn.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay, so they get 2 turns in a row.
Yes.
If it was just 2 turns in a row, I wouldn't have a problem.
Right.
But I got caught in a time loop with this guy.
Yeah.
Where what he was doing was he was playing a time card, which allowed him to get the next turn instead of me.
Right.
A little frustrating. It's played. It goes into the graveyard. He's buffing cards, and then he's cycling his graveyard back into his hand.
And then he's searching his hand for the card.
And he's playing it over and
right.
over again.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they got rid of interrupts, because it created a bunch of time loops, and people were spending more time figuring out what the order of operations were than just playing the fucking game.
Right.
So they just switched everything to instants, because an interrupt happens before an instant, even though it gets played after the instant. And everyone was just like, you know what? Can it just be like instant. In a row?
Yeah. But I got stuck in a time loop with this guy as I was playing. And it's not milling my deck, and it's not milling his deck. And so the game's not going to end by mill, because he's playing off the graveyard. He's bumping his characters, so they're getting stronger and stronger. But every time he's playing characters in these spells, I get life off of them. So I'm getting higher and higher life. I'm getting procs. So it's basically, he's just trying to get me to a place where I quit.
Right, so he's got 12 soldiers all the way across his board, but you have 500 life, so it doesn't fucking matter.
Exactly. So I'm just sitting there and like, okay, so this is a game where he's just doing this, because I'm not doing anything at this point. It's just him playing by himself.
Right.
Incredibly boring.
Oh,
so I have to pull out my cell phone, and I just fuck around my cell phone. I sat there for 45 minutes before... Because I'm like, bitch.
That's the worst. thing in the
Fuck
world.
you.
Oh
I was
my
so mad.
God.
This motherfucker. I was like, you're wasting
That's
my
so
time.
shitty.
I was like, I was
How is
answering
that fun for
emails.
anyone?
I was watching puppy videos. I was all, fuck you, motherfucker. To the point, like, he quit. Because 45 minutes, like, I don't think this motherfucker's going to quit. Like, I went and fed the dogs. I took him for a fucking walk and shit. And this guy's like, oh, I'm doing this. He's going to quit.
He wasted his own time.
He wasted his own fucking time. I was like, okay. I'd come back in and check the room. I was like, oh, nope, he's still jerking off on the other side of that computer.
Stop trolling yourself. Stop trolling yourself.
Oh, my God. So it was like fuck this shit. So, and here's the thing, like...
I can't play online like that. It's not fun for me. I like to feel the cards and shuffle them.
Yeah, no, doing things live is way funner for Magic. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, like, that's not fun. And Magic is hard enough. Like,
it's hard to play. It's hard to make a good deck.
My success rate online... I ran a program that checked my games, and I did it for like 4 months, and I played over 1,000 games, and so it gives me like what my rating is like against my. Competitively, I win about 65% of the time online. Mm-hmm. That's really good. Yeah, that's really good. The best players win a percentage of closer to 80 or 90. That's how like the guys who go for championship games and real money, they're like 80. Yeah. I'm about 65%. That wasn't that bad. It's a hard game, and this time loop shit, like, you're just wasting my time.
Right, it's not fun for either one of us.
Like, it's hard.
The guy that was doing it quit the game.
Yeah, the guy that was doing it quit the game because was like, oh, this is boring.
Right.
And it's like mill decks are fun. Like, when they come out of the blue, like, just randomly, it's like, oh, you're milling me, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
Because, like...
if you run out of cards, the game ends and you die.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, just not do... like, oh, I'm in it to play, and it's going to be a hard strategy, the back and forth. I got to fight this guy, and I know that I'm going to lose 35% of the time, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
But don't, like, freeze me out to where I can't do anything.
Right.
Like, let me lose with, like, through strategy. Like, I'm not smart enough to outwit, like, your card combination. Don't beat me by attrition.
Yeah. And they're coming out with so many packs these days that some of the card descriptions are just gobbledygook now. Like, I think they're being written by AI, because back in 3rd edition, white, the big power was banding, so you could put creatures together to attack. And then there is this thing called cooperation, which was the same mechanic that just had a different name.
Right.
And then there was, like, brotherhood, and there's, like, another thing that it's just banding over and over and over. So they're coming up with all these new terms to do these different mechanics, and some of them are just fucking stupid and only work because they wrote it on a bunch of different cards that you can put together. But it's not enhancing the game anymore because there's so many different mechanics out there that it's impossible to learn the game.
So when me and you first met,
right,
when I was dating Mary, and we were doing game night,
yes,
and the idea was we're all going to come together and play,
right.
And at that time, I went down to like I wanted to create an Excel calculator for Magic to like figure some organizational stuff out and some types of stuff. There are 150 different mechanical abilities.
Right.
Everyone knows trample, haste, trample, whatever.
Double strike,
first strike shot. There's 150.
Yeah.
On the website, and I was trying to code all of them for this Excel spreadsheet. I was like, no, this is fucking. There's no fucking way I'm going to be able to do it.
And it's gobbledygook now. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, what's wrong with trample? Trample's pretty good. Reach is okay.
Reach is good. Reach is actually one of my favorites. I like making reach decks.
Right. Because you don't have the same mana cost as a flying, but you can still defend against flying.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, you can't really fly with green. There's not a lot of flying green, but at least you can defend against it, especially when you're playing blue, which is like your enemy color.
And so like the thing was that I quit I was immediately reminded why I quit playing Arena. And that was, I was like, oh, I'll get into this. Okay, well, I need to like acquire some gold and gems to purchase more cards, and I got to like go through the mechanics. I was like, oh, okay. So a good way to acquire cards in real life is to go to a draft.
Right.
Local game shot. local game store. Crazy Squirrel does Friday Night Magic, where like every Friday night they do a draft. You show up, you pay $10, you get 3 decks, booster packs, and everyone pulls one card, and I guess it passes to the left, and you build a deck of what you acquire. Whatever cards
That's a really hard game to play.
It is a hard game.
When it's not just 2 people, because when it's 2 people and you're just playing against your buddy, you can kind of memorize what you're passing back and forth.
Right.
But when it's 8 people and you're all passing to the left, you don't know what the fuck you're going to get.
When it's 4 people, you lose track. Right. So, but it's a really fun mechanic, and at the end of the night, you get to keep those cards.
Right.
You get to keep the cards, and that's great. That's fantastic. Okay, so you get to keep those cards. So that's what draft was. Draft was a great way to go out, meet new people, try new mechanics, get new cards, and play, right?
Right.
And it's competitive. Let's
and nerds ruined it.
No, Wizards of the Coast ruined it.
Yeah. Well, they're nerds.
Yeah. So my big issue with drafting on Arena, and they're doing this more and more and more, is you have to pay to get into the draft. And so, like, obviously it's video game payment. It's gold coins I've acquired, or it's gems I've acquired over time.
And then I had to trade gems for coins and coins for gems, and now the whole fucking thing is
exactly
like, you know, this is actually taking cash at this
here's
point.
the issue. Here's the issue is I was like, I got back into it. I was like, okay, well, I need to get some of the newer cards. Mm-hmm. And a good way to do that is to go to the draft. So I went to the draft. So like, okay, I want to do the draft so I can get the new cards, so I can start seeing what these new mechanics are and start building these decks. And I go to the draft, and they're like, hey, it's $10 to play. It's a phantom draft, so you don't get to keep any of the cards.
What?
So what's the fucking point?
There is no point.
Well, you could rank up and you could move up to... No, motherfucker. The point of the game was... to draft was I spend... And let's face it, when I say $10, it was digital, like, gems and shit that I acquired by winning games.
Sure.
But you can spend money to get those gems.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So, I mean, you can purchase entry into these drafts, but the point of the draft was to acquire more cards, to earn them, to work your ass off.
Yeah.
And look, if you lost, you didn't win as many. The way drafts are set up is it's tiered. So, like, after you win 3 games in a row, you're going against better and better competitors. You're getting matched up with people who are supposed to be better players, right? So the prizes are supposed to get higher and higher and higher as you work your way up this tier. And so the incentive is, if you build a good enough deck, you could acquire all this shit. No, in these Phantom drafts, you get nothing.
Yeah. And I think that it's people that are developing mobile games that are specifically preying on addiction, like
100%.
Addiction body chemistry. Like humans
100%.
have body chemistry that reacts to certain inputs that creates addiction. They all know it. They all study it. They perfected it through mobile games. Oh, it's free to download. Just play it. And then all of a sudden you're $100 down on a fucking mobile game, and they're putting it everywhere they can.
Right.
And it's working because human beings are designed to seek rewards. That's how we're fucking wired. Fucking perfect, and that game's 50 years old.
So I think this is it.
I think we did it.
Another successful podcast.
I'm out of scotch. I'm gonna go.
Hey, okay, here's the thing. I want to invite Bill on for the next episode.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Because I would like to get Bill on and hang out a little bit. And that gives us some time to plan. Do we want to do Brian Kenny and Carlos Montano? Is it Montana?
I don't know. Let's save it until the next episode, and we'll message back and forth, and we'll decide, and we'll do the reveal when we come back on.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Gin and Scotch.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers.